Hey there, YouTubers. Welcome to a video that's going to be exactly what the title told you it's going to be. I'm going to talk about why Class Bs aren't so great anymore. I have an old Class B in 1999. I think it's awesome. I did a video recently and somebody made a comment that made me think, well, if I think these old ones are so good, why do I think the new ones aren't so good? So I figured, let's talk about my opinions, maybe with some facts sprinkled in there. So the first point I'm going to get to, and these will be in no particular order, I'm just going to ramble and see where it takes me. But the first point is the price. The price of Class Bs are insane. I looked on RV Trader at just some prices, and you know, a lot of times you can go better than MSRP, but it looks like about as cheap as you're going to get for a Class B is in the high $70,000 to $80,000 range, which is really expensive. That's about as cheap as you can get anymore. And the most expensive, you can get well over $250,000 in a Class B, which I think is insane. I personally don't have that kind of money. If I had that kind of money, I would hope I would spend it more wisely. But the reason I did this is I made a video kind of comparing the two, and somebody made a nice comment. There was no malice, nothing bad about it. And the person said, well, your van is ugly. He didn't say it that way, but thinks that the newer ones are better looking. They're more attractive to look at from the outside. Personally, I don't see it that way. I look at all, you know, the Dodges, the Sprinters, the actual Sprinter, and I tend to call them all Sprinter style, and the Transit and all that. They just look like Amazon vans. They all look the same to me. Some of them are a little nicer with gaudy stuff, but I think the older ones like this, I think these tend to have a little bit more character. So to me, it's kind of like comparing a modern house to like an old Victorian or something like that. So the newer vans are modern and sleek and stuff like that. And older ones like this are kind of like that, you know, and I just personally, I prefer something with a little character. So in my opinion, the Class Bs have changed so drastically when Dodge stopped making the 3500 van like this is on. Back in the day, the majority of the vans, from Explorers to Road Treks to Pleasure Ways, Leisure Travels, were all on the Dodge platform, which gave it ability to expand. Like we'll talk about mine, the wide body. Oh my God, it's so much better. And now all the vans, everything is built inside the van. And I don't know, I just like the character that the older style vans had. And that might not be for you. It might be a silly argument. They just all look like Amazon vans. So honestly, for me, a big point is when they killed off the Dodge 3500. I just thought that was a better platform, and it gave manufacturers different options than they have today. Everything today is on the inside. If you see, like, again, this being the wide body, it makes a huge difference on the inside of these Class Bs. If you see today, all they really do is they make them a little bit longer, a little bit taller, and every now and then they'll put a small bump out in the back to make a bed fit a little bit better. But the wider is better. The wider is better. Now, when I start talking about a lot of these new ones, you got to already know from this or a brand new Sprinter brand, whatever you do, you only got X amount of space. There's only so many different ways you can arrange these things, you know, but you only got so many options. So we'll move on to the next thing as I look down at a list I've made, which at points is going to sound like I don't even have a list. With the new vans, I think the worst part for me, other than price, I mean, the price for me makes it a non-starter. I'm not paying $250,000 for a van. And again, the person that made the comment that sparked me to talk about this described their own van, and it's fancy. They have, I think I wrote it down somewhere. I don't remember what their actual van was. Maybe I'll look through the comments. And when I talk about new styles versus old style, well over $250,000. I bought this 10 years ago for 15 grand. I could sell it for more probably now. Comparing that to something somebody paid $250,000 is like comparing apples and pomegranates. You know, it's just not the same creature. But, well, in that case, it wouldn't be a creature. It would be a vegetable or a fruit. But, but I don't understand somebody spending that kind of money on it. And, you know, you can buy something like that and get four-wheel drive and all that stuff put on it. I don't know about you out there, but I don't know how much off-roading I'm doing in a $260,000 Class B. I don't foresee myself, you know, driving up the side of hills and doing all crazy stuff. But again, the price is just crazy. But see, I get off track quickly. We'll go back to what my next point was going to be, is storage. When you look at the new vans, again, I'm going to call them Sprinter vans, but they're whatever the three major brands, they're the same thing. Outside storage, I got great amounts of outside storage. I mean, even for the vans from back in this day, Leisure Travel to me did the greatest job of outside storage of all of them. So I'm spoiled in my old style what I have for storage. The new ones, pretty much all of them don't have any outside storage. And some people might be fine with that, but I think a lot of us like to grill, you know, to cook. And most people will either use a charcoal or a propane grill. I don't want to drag that inside my van to where I have very limited storage to begin with. I'm going to throw up a few pictures of the insides of some of these vans. And as you look, you're just going to see that, like, where are you supposed to put stuff? I don't think anybody designing the new vans really plans on people doing much more than a weekend or maybe a week at most. And maybe there's a part of that that's a good thing. Maybe it causes people to be more minimalistic, which I'm not. I would like to work on it. But storage is a huge issue. And when you go look at a van, I think a lot of people don't really put the thought into, where am I going to put my stuff, my clothes? If you have two people in here, where am I going to put my clothes? Well, in my van, you can look now as I'm keep talking about it. There's plenty of places to put stuff. I have tons and tons of storage. So in the new vans, it just seems like they're designed by people that don't ever go in a van, hashtag van life and all that crap, you know. It's designed by those kind of people. We'll be back in a second. Okay, another thing I'm going to jump in here with, this is very personal, like all of this is. None of this is fact-based. It's just opinion-based. Some of you out there might agree with most of what I say, some of what I say, or none of what I say. So just take it as it is. For me, one of the big things, and maybe it's because I have bias, is I've had this Leisure Travel van for like a really long time, and I love this van. It's not perfect, but I love this van. So one of my complaints about the new Class Bs is Leisure Travel doesn't make them anymore. Leisure Travel doesn't make Class Bs. Now, they kind of try to say they make Class Bs, but they're making Class Cs. Even technically, they are Class Cs by the definition of a Class B and a Class C. They are Class Cs. They try to market them as Class Bs, but if you see them on the road, they're monsters. They're huge. And that's another thing with a lot of the newer Class Bs. You can still find some kind of small ones, but they're getting longer and longer to try to make up for the lack of style. That's not true. They're just getting longer. But I go back to the problem with that is you can stretch the van longer, which is fine. But as narrow as the vans are, you know, this is, I think, 6 to 8 inches wider than the Sprinter style vans out there. And it doesn't sound like much, but it makes a huge difference. Like I have a queen size bed in here. A lot of those, you can't do that. Yeah, so the narrowness of the new Sprinter style vans is probably my least favorite aspect of them. Okay, the next point, which again, you may have disagreed with everything I said. You may have agreed it is what it is. I think, and I'm going to show some pictures. I think my van compared to the newer vans is better looking inside. Like they did something really smart. They made it white, you know, so it looks larger. And you look at a lot of these vans now, and I'm going to try to sprinkle some pictures in here, that again, you're spending 80, 150, 200, $250,000 and up. And I personally think they're tacky as hell. A lot of them are dark, and they make them shiny but dark, so they think that looks cool. And everything seems to be laid out as the entire van is like a galley kitchen, how everything is arranged, just long, narrow, and it's just, you'll see a lot of the new ones that have twin beds on the side. It's just it's not for me. And at the price they charge, they're super tacky, in my opinion. Now, if you have the money to pay for it, there's a guy out there that rebuilds them, and there's a lot of them that do really good work that aren't factories. Humble Road, I think if you've ever seen his videos, dude's got his stuff together. He makes his stuff look nice. He builds in redundancies to all his systems. They make awesome. And some people that build their own out, they make even the new style vans that I don't like as much, they make them awesome. But if you're going to do it yourself, be prepared to pay $40,000 to $45,000 for the empty van, and then however much you think it's going to cost, double it, and however long you think it's going to take you, add 3 times the amount of time. But I got off on a tangent, which happens when you ramble. I'm talking about from the factory made Class Bs. You know, they're just, as you look at these, hopefully I've been showing pictures of the interiors to stick to the topic I meant to be on, is how tacky some of these factory built Class Bs look to me. And like that person said that thought mine wasn't a good looking van, I think this is a good looking van. See, I think it's good looking. You may agree with him, agree with me. You may think both are ugly. You may think one is fine. They're either fine or whatever. And the point of my argument is possibly quite a bit silly, because you can't buy these. They don't make them no more. All you can find is an old one, and then be prepared to sink some money into them. So maybe my argument is pointless because you can't buy them anymore. Maybe I'm just closing in on becoming a grumpy old man yelling, "Get off my yard," you know. But when I see some of these the way they look right here, I don't see the value in them. I think if I have to replace this van, there's the most likelihood that it will not be another Class B. The pros and cons outweigh the budget aspect of it. I think a lot of times you can find a smaller Class C or a B plus. I would probably lean more towards a B plus. It's just, I don't like the new ones. All right, so I've talked about the tacky colors, the boring setups. When you see some of them, you're going to find some of them that put a big bathroom in the back, and varying degrees down to barely a bathroom at all. Because your bathroom takes up a lot of space. And some people in van life use their bathrooms all the time, use their showers all the time. Personally, when I bought mine, I didn't care if it was a wet bath or a dry bath. Now that I've had it all these years, I love the feature on mine, which is something nobody does anymore. I have up on the roof, I have a shower curtain, and down on the floor, I have a drain, and my shower is in the aisle between my kitchen and my bathroom. So since I don't shower all the time in the van, I'm not wasting all that space of a dedicated shower and all that goes with that. So if you are one that's going to shower in your van all the time, you might like an aisle shower, or you might want a dedicated dry or wet bath. And in Class Bs, you can find them now, but you just can't find an aisle shower anymore. I don't know of any that make it. As soon as I post this on YouTube, I will probably get a lot of people saying, oh no, so-and-so makes them. If that's the case, cool. Tell people down here if that's something they want. Again, like I said, when I bought it, if this one had been one that had a wet bath, I would have bought it anyways. It wouldn't have made that much difference. But because my shower is set up the way it is, I save so much space. I have a wardrobe that one wardrobe has more storage in it than it seems some entire brand new Sprinter style vans have throughout the whole van. So, yeah. That was a lot of rambling. I wonder if anything is useful in there. We'll see. All right. And now we're going to get to probably, personally, one of my biggest dislikes of the new Sprinter style vans. And it's the bed. My 1999 Leisure Travel, you can be 6'6". And I will show you because I got a tape measure. Yes, you can be 6'6" and sleep east to west in these vans because it's the wide body. Now, if you're driving a Sprinter style, you can be about 5'4". You know, they're much narrower. And what that does is that causes your bed to have to be north and south. And that's not the worst thing in the world. But as we all know, that north-south bed is going to take up a lot more of your floor space than east-west is going to do. Because that's how beds work. They're longer than they are wide. So, to me, that is a big downside for the vans. And the other thing is when you go and look at these, either online or in person, you're going to see that everything is arranged as multi-purpose. When you're doing a Class B, everything has to have multi-function to it. So they will have things set up to where it can be a bed, it can be a seating area, it can be an eating area. You can put a table there between your bed and then use it for a bunch of different purposes. Sounds fantastic. But once you do that, what you end up getting, and they'll brag about it, is what I call a Tetris bed. So move this cushion here, move that cushion there, push this over here, push that, and there you go. There's your bed set up. And when you're laying on it, you got seams and cushions in betweens all over. They're just terrible. I want a real bed. This is a double-sided short queen, so I can flip it over and get long life out of it. It's a real bed. And when you buy the new ones, and even some of the older ones, that you can convert the sleeping area to multi-purpose. You know, again, you can make it 2 sofas with tables, and you can do all kinds of stuff. Which when you're getting ready to buy one, you think, well, that's cool, so I can do extra things with it. Once you own one, the vast majority of people, once they set it up as a bed, they leave it set up as a bed. Because every day thinking you're going to get up and un-Tetris the bed and move everything back and store all your bedding in a van that already doesn't have a lot of storage, and say that you don't like the Tetris part that I described of where you got seams and cushions coming together and it's not comfortable to sleep in, well, you'll get a topper for it. On a van with no storage, where are you going to put the topper? You know what I mean? It's just, again, it goes back to, I think a lot of people that design these things don't sleep in them, don't drive them, don't camp in them. And when I look at small, similar type vans from Europe, oh, I think they got it set up so much better. If I was to replace this, I'm going to get it wrong. So if I do, my mouth might not match the words coming out, but I think it's the Orion and another one where they kind of stole what Europe does, where your van is tall enough so that the bed can raise up and lower down. so that you have a dedicated bed that's not in the way and you have the storage area. To me, that's brilliant. I think it's the Revel that in the back, they arranged that so you can lift the bed up against the wall and have a garage and that kind of thing for storing bikes and whatnots, which is cool. But when you get in those vans, not so much. Again, they're narrow. You're trying to squeeze through. If you're one person, you're pretty good. If you're two, it's just so cramped. So again, the whole bed situation in the new Sprinter style Class Bs is just something that I always see that I'm like, yeah, that's not for me. I like to have a dedicated bed. If you're going to have days where you're just like, I don't want to do that crap, and you leave the bed down, and then it's 6 months later and your bed is always down. So old style, especially leisure travel with the wide body, the bed wins hands down. So I like the bed better. In my case, I like the shower situation better because it gives me more storage than the new ones are going to have. Another thing they're doing, top of my head, they're taking out propane in a lot of them, which is cool. It is nice to have a 3-way fridge because you can run propane and it sips it to use your refrigerator, which is really cool. All the good, really expensive vans are obviously putting lithium in, and you can upgrade any van to put lithium in, which is fantastic. But if you buy it from the factory with lithium and serious solar on it, you're going to pay a lot of money. You're going to pay a lot of money. And most of them are starting to put induction cooktops in, which is fantastic. That's what I use. If I'm hooked to power or if I'm using my EcoFlow, I'll power the induction cooktop with that instead of burning my propane. One thing a lot of them do that seems pointless to me is they put the induction cooktops in the counter. Well, don't. Just give me a counter. Give me a small compartment where I can put the induction cooktop. So if I choose to cook it inside, I can cook inside. Or if I just want to pick the thing up and take it outside, I can cook outside. Seems better than built in. A lot of the new ones, if they do have a generator, a gas or diesel powered, well, it would be propane powered generator, they put it underneath the back end of the van, which is cool enough, usually where your bed is. Mine is up in the front, so when I do run it, I don't have that noise. But having it underneath, go ahead and try to change the oil in that. You know what I mean? That is because they're just using the Sprinter van. Boom, there it is. There's nowhere to cut into it to give you outside storage. It's just the old ones are better, in my opinion. I got more. All right. I had written down and made notes and was going to talk all about this next part that I'm just going to tell you. And if you want to research, because as soon as I say something, you might say I'm wrong. This 1999 Leisure Travel has a 5.9 liter V8, and the Dodge 5.9 liter V8 is like a workhorse that almost everybody out there loves that engine. Transmission, Dodge not so much. But that engine is a beast. It is awesome. Most of the new ones, if you get diesel, fine, you've got diesel. Diesel's almost everywhere, not everywhere, but almost everywhere. Diesel is a lot more expensive than gas. So personally, I prefer having gas. Diesel engine is usually going to last you longer. It's got more torque or horsepower, not than this old one. Not more than this old one though. But Mercedes, some of them are 4 cylinders, twin turbos. I've said bad things. The last video that caused this was I am not a fan of Mercedes. And if you watch along The Voice, she owns a Mercedes, an older Explorer on a Sprinter Mercedes. We're going to do another video, and she has some corrections she wanted to make to the stuff we talked about. But Mercedes, when they run well, they're fantastic. But they're really finicky, require a lot of just fiddling. You take it to the shop a lot. And if you're driving a Mercedes and you need a shop, good luck. They're hard to find, and if you need parts, they're expensive. They can take a long time to get them, and just finding the repairs can be difficult, from most everybody who's owned a Mercedes will tell you. So then you come out with, you can go to the Dodge. It's running, I think, a 3.6 liter V6, which most people say is fine. I like the Victorian old school. I like having a V8. I like having that power. I think you can get a V8 in the Dodge. Don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure I saw that you can get that option. But how many of us are really ordering these vans from the dealership? Usually we're taking what's on the lot, and they're rare, so they can be hard to find. And the Ford Transit is also using like a 3.5 liter V6, and they are what they are. They are probably good for 99% of the situations, but I like my old V8. So as I'm looking here, I'm looking down, and I think I'm going to do this different, but I'm going to talk real quick. Like I said, I went and looked at some MSRPs of new vans, and they are insane. Now, that said, this leisure travel, when it was brand new in '99, was about $55,000, which sounds fantastic. And whether you agree with me or not, for Class Bs, it was one of the higher end in 1999. It was one of the better Class Bs. Well, that 55 grand is now makes it about 90 grand what it would be, 98 grand, something like that. So when you compensate for the age, this was expensive, but it was also the top of the line. Near the top of the line. I don't want to argue with anybody that says it's crap. It price-wise and configuration-wise, it was towards the top end of Class Bs. And now, to get towards the bottom end, like I said, 70, if you get 70 on new, you've broken a record or something. So you're talking 80s. I looked a Travato, or let's see, I looked a Solus. They're usually 87.9. You go to an RV show and catch a deal. Obviously, you can catch deals. But you're talking mid-80s for the bottom end. And, you know, if you look at the Winnebago era 70, it's 154.5. If you want it 4x4, it's 163. The Bolt is like 182 grand. Airstream Interstate is $220,000. The Thor Rise is cheaper. It's about 88.9. And Mercedes, you're talking 175. And what is this? I think it's Van Approach, $276,000. So the price on these new ones is just ludicrous. Just ludicrous. I can say ludicrous again. It's insane. So when I made that video and somebody says, well, my van is a lot better than yours. Again, the person was nice. They were not calling me out. But we're talking about a whole different animal. You know, somebody who's watching this channel, me traveling in a 25-year-old van that I paid 15 grand for, it's not the same experience as somebody who spent $270,000 on a Class B. It's a totally different thing. I just don't see the value in spending $276,000. You can get a small Class C cheaper than you can get a lower end Class B. I just don't know why. And there's no reason for them to lower prices or to change anything, because they're selling them faster than they can make them. Maybe this whole video of me being like an old stick in the mud saying, I don't like the new stuff. I'm a definite outsider, because the decision that has been made by all the people that make Class Bs is this how they're going to make them. This is your option. And for you to look at the outside of one of those and say, oh, that's gorgeous. I see glass, sleek, and boring. I look at this and I see character. You look at this maybe and you say, that's ugly. But we should all look at the price tag of when you're getting ready to sign to pay for one of these new things and go, insane. So, My takeaway of all this is you buy what you want. But if you have money to burn, go buy a brand new one. If you have a little bit of money and the ability to do some stuff yourself, or the ability to say, I can get one of these older ones for a cheap price, not as cheap as they should be, because the new ones cost so much, so the value of these go up. But if you can find one at a good price and tell yourself, okay, now I sink 15 to 20 grand into this to make it new, I think you've done yourself a great service. I think you've ended up, if everything works 100% inside the van, I personally think you've ended up with a better van. Now, you're not going to get all the cool tech. That's one of the things where the new ones win. All the stuff that comes in the cockpit, you know, the driving experience, lane assist, all that neat, cool stuff. Sure, I'd love to have that. I have a cassette deck in my damn van, you know. I still have the original radio in it, and it's a cassette deck. So, not the same animals. But if it was me, I'm not paying that kind of money for a new one. And when I've looked at the ones that I could possibly afford, you know, the lower end, man, $80,000, they're making something that costs $80,000. It looks pretty damn cheap inside to me. So that was my long-winded ramble about why I personally think, whether you agree or not, cool, we don't have to fight about stuff. Put all the comments you want, make valid points, don't be mean. No need to be mean, anybody. But that's my long-winded ramble on why I think Class Bs aren't that great anymore. Hope you enjoyed. Hope there might have been something interesting. And if you come here because you're angry, don't come here no more. I'm very lucky as a person that I don't get a lot of people angry and spouting venom. But if you watch this video and you watched however long this turned out to be, and your takeaway is, here's where I'm going to say something mean, don't bother. I'm not trying to make videos to make anybody angry. If you watch my video and it makes you angry to say something mean, maybe you should stop watching videos. Go play with a puppy or something. Because then you'll have a great and wonderful day.